in Oregon, and which was the baby was swiftly put up for adoption.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking over the area now. I
Mm-hmm.
see now why it exists. There's a big railroad that goes right by it. That's why.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they had been there before. That's well, a lot of people would move to Keddie like back in the early 1900s for work, and the railroad was there. Then that work started drying up, and nothing now.
God, I mean, it's literally in the middle of nowhere. Like it's just
Hmm.
mountains. Is this the Sierra Nevada? Yeah, it's just like,
Yeah.
wow, that is like secluded, secluded. So perfect for
Hmm.
someone who's trying to get away from an abusive husband. I
Yeah.
can see why they moved out here. But anyways, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And the area, like I said, the times were hard. It was the rent was like around $250, which is the exact amount of money that Sue was receiving from the Navy because her husband James was a Navy vet, and those are his kids, and the Navy was giving her $250 a month. Plus, she was receiving food stamps and other social welfare. She was enrolled in a CETA, a program, a federal education program of that era. And she was going to class and she was receiving money for that to go to those classes. Sue had been described as being a quiet, reserved woman who mainly kept to herself. Her neighbors had described her as not a fancy dresser and was described by her classmates and neighbors as kind of a loner.
Hmm.
Sue only had one close girlfriend, a neighborhood woman who went by the last name of Meeks. Um, and she was going to school, Feather River Community College. She was doing business trade. Her professors described her as a good student who studied hard and obtained good grades, but was also a loner who didn't participate in social gatherings such as coffee breaks.
Okay.
Still during that time, Sue managed to date with some frequency. Some of her boyfriends seemed at odds with her background and temperament. Um, so she was like hooking up with guys that were drinking a lot and really had like unemployed, most of them unemployed, no higher prospects. Um, like before she was killed, Sue was in a abusive relationship with a man shortly before a murder. Um, and she broke off the relationship after a loud argument in her front yard 6 weeks before she died. So
Suspect number one.
So yeah, suspect number one, but he was cleared by the police. He was out of town the day of the murders, just to put him up. She had another boyfriend, Daryl, guy she was seeing right before she died.
Hmm.
Um, Daryl, they like to go out, play pool, drink beer. Daryl had left Keddie to spend the weekend with his family in Paradise, California, the day of the murders.
Okay.
So the kids were typical kids, not a lot of trouble. Not much is really known about them other than they were like typical young kids, didn't get in that much trouble or anything like that. So yeah, so let's talk about what had happened the day of the murders. On April 11th, 1981, around 1:30, Sue and Sheila drove from Keddie to pick up John and his friend Dana Hall Wingate from Granner Park in Quincy, California, and brought them back to Keddie. From Quincy to Keddie is about 5 miles away, just to give you relatively what they thought. Just give you relative distance.
Okay.
Uh, John, about 2 hours later, around 3:30 p.m., John and Dea hitchhiked back to Quincy, where they had made plans to visit friends. Around this time, the two were seen in the city's downtown area. A local woman, Donna Williams, claims they picked them up in front of a tire store and given them a ride down the road to another friend's home. The two were later seen attending a party at Oakland Camp in Quincy. That same evening, Sheila had plans to spend the night with the Seaboat family, who lived in the adjacent cabin right next door to them, while Sue remained at home with Rick, Grant, and the boy's friend Justin Smart. Sheila departed cabin 28 shortly after 8 p.m., leaving her mother alone with the younger children. Tina, who had been watching television at the Seaboats, returned home to cabin 28 around 9:30 p.m. after Sheila arrived at the Seaboats to spend the night. Now, let's go to the next day.
Okay.
On the morning of April 12th, around 7 a.m., Sheila returned to cabin 28. She was going to grab her Sunday clothes to go to church with the Seaboats, since the Seaboats had asked her to go to church with them. So around 7 o'clock, she came in. She opened the front door. She saw 3 bodies on the floor. The furthest away, covered with a blanket. She also saw a knife on the floor between the doorway and the closest body. Bent in such an angle, she mistook it for an open pocket knife. She ran screaming back to the Seaboat. Sheila and Mrs. Seaboat went to the nearest working phone across the street at the landlord's cabin 25 and called the Pumas County Sheriff's Office. As the PCSO dispatched a car to the scene, Sheila and Mrs. Seaboat, Zonita Seaboat, returned to cabin 27 and with the help of Zonita's son, Jamie, knocked on the boys' bedroom window. Jamie pulled 3 unharmed kids from that window, Greg, Rick, and the neighbor, Justin Smart, who had spent the night at cabin 28 for a sleepover. Jamie then went to the rear of 28, up the stairs, and inside through the back door, which was open or left ajar by the killers. After looking around, searching for survivors, he rejoined the others outside, and then the police came.
Hold on.
Yes.
There was 3 unharmed kids in a room.
Yes, there were 3
that were
no, go ahead.
After the dead bodies had been discovered.
Yep.
Interesting. And who are these kids?
They were Greg, Rick, and the neighbor, Justin Smart.
Interesting. All right. Go ahead. I just wanted to make sure I heard that right. Okay.
Yeah, it's weird. These 3 kids are sitting there unharmed.
How old are these kids? Like,
witnessed the murder? I think,
go ahead.
Rick is 10, Greg is 5, and Justin Smart is 12.
What? I mean, interesting. So they just like hid out in a room while there was 3 murders happening in the house?
We'll get to that.
Wow. Okay.
All right. The 3 people who were dead were John, Sue, and Dana. And they were in a very vicious state. 2 bloody knives and 1 hammer, like I said, were found in the scene. One of the knives, a steak knife, later determined had been used as a weapon, had been bit in half due to the excessive force. Blood spatter evidence from inside the house indicated the murders of Sue, John, and Dana had all taken place in the living room.
The knife had been bit in half? Is that what you said?
Yes. The knife had been bent in the steak knife, which was used in the murder, was been discovered bent in half.
Okay, I'm sorry. I said bit in half. I was
like, bent.
Damn. Okay, go ahead.
Bent.
Okay.
Like fucking, like no, lockjaw is not in this.
Yeah, I mean, steak knife. It was used to stab somebody. I could see that.
Mm-hmm. Sue was discovered lying on her side near the living room sofa, nude from the waist down, and gagged with a blue bandana and her own underwear, which had been secured with tape. She had been stabbed in the chest, her throat had been slashed, and on the side of her head was an imprint matching the butt of a Daisy 880 BB gun. John's throat was slashed. Dana had multiple head injuries and had been manually strangled. All 3 had blunt force trauma to their heads caused by a hammer or hammers.
Jesus.
Autopsy determined they died from knife wounds and blunt force trauma.
So there was a matching butt of a Daisy BB gun on the side of her head.
Yes.
So, okay. Who comes into a house with a BB gun and not a real gun and has it out, you know, ready enough to be able to hit someone over the head with it? I'm sorry, I'm just like asking questions out loud. You don't have to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
So there were knife wounds, hammer wounds, and then someone used a BB gun to beat someone over the head.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
Around 8:45 in the morning, Don Davis, Sue's brother, arrived and met with the one of the sheriff's deputies in front of 28. Don gave the deputy details of Sue and her family about a pending divorce and move from Connecticut. Also, Davis detailed how Sue's estranged husband Jim hasn't visited the family since November 1979, and how Sue refused to give Jim the new address or phone number after moving to Keddie. He supplied the name and ages of Sue's kids and mentioned Sheila's baby, giving the baby's father's name and address, and mentioning he hung around the gaming arcade in East Quincy. Then more investigators arrived, and by noon, the California Department of Justice helicopter from Sacramento was hovering over Keddie, taking pictures. Supposedly capturing on film what appeared to be the killer sneaking out of town the back way to avoid notice. Supposedly.
Okay.
We'll get to that in a minute. Either way, that this was a fucked up scenario that was going on. Oh my God, yeah. So let's get to the initial investigation. Sheila and the Seabolt family heard no commotion during the night. A couple living nearby were awakened around 1:30 a.m. for what sounded like muffled screaming, but couldn't say from where. Also, which I'm surprised you didn't ask the initial question. I say it was a quadruple murder. There was 4 people. Tina is missing.
Who's Tina?
Tina is Sue's other daughter.
So she's
Tina is she's missing.
I thought she had 3 kids. I'm sorry. That's why I didn't.
No. I told you there was more. There was my 5 kids.
Oh, sorry.
Like Sue's daughter Sheila had went over to sleep at the Seaboats. Tina had come back to the house that night. When they discovered the 3 bodies, they didn't discover Tina because Tina was missing. Her jacket was missing, her shoes were missing, and the shoebox containing various tools were missing from the cabin, which showed no indication of forced entry. An unidentified fingerprint was found on a handrail on the stairs leading to the cabin's back door. The cabin's telephone had been left off the hook, its lights were off, and the drapes were closed.
Okay.
So no, go ahead.
Where's Tina? And how was so no indication of forced entry, so it wasn't a robbery well, I guess it could have been if they just let
it could have been
if the kids just let the intruders in.
Or Sue let the intruders in, but they didn't notice anything was missing other than the shoes and a shoebox containing various tools. And also, this family has no money. So,
what are they?
Robbery?
Yeah, what are they coming to rob?
Yeah, exactly.
Cabin's telephone had been left off the hook. Lights were off. Drapes were closed. So, there was intention there. Who would... Like, why would you close the drapes after you committed the murder? Like that.
You don't want people looking in to see what you've done.
I mean, yeah, but it's going to be found out sooner or later. It's not like you can stop that from happening. To me,
yeah, but later you gives you a chance to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems it seems to me like it was a premeditated murder where
Hmm.
they came with weapons, they came with the intent to kill,